All right, welcome to a little more Rose Outdoors action today, folks. We're gonna have some fun today. I just got that hankering to go out and just flip. We're gonna short line some. I'm gonna be throwing a Strike King tube, maybe a rodent a little bit. We're gonna be flipping bushes. St. Francis River is right over here. It's just right, and I got an oxbow right off of it that the fishing ought to be, water level ought to be just right. So we're gonna go try it. We're gonna talk a little faith, family, and fishing. We're gonna have some fun today. Y'all come along with me.
Brother, it's a long road from Amistad to Toho. Doesn't matter which way you go, miles are all the same. When you finally get there, when you pull the cover off, then it's time to get a little bit lost out on the lake. Gonna bag this boat into the water, find a way to win a couple dollars. Weatherman says there's a cold front coming down. Bring it on, I've seen it all by now. I can catch 'em shallow, I can catch 'em deep. Open water or the back of the creek. The wind and rain to me, it's all the same. I make a living playing this game, and I thank the Lord above every time I can. I get to be a fisherman.
What's up, Rose Outdoors fans? Back in the Sea Ark, the meat boat, the fun boat, the party boat, the backwater bonanza boat. We finna get them today. Little flipping, little flip. If we ever get out here, all right, go ahead. Oh yeah, it's fixing to be on now. All right, folks, we are here in little Oxbow Lake off the St. Francis. I grew up fishing Oxbow Lakes. There's one thing you do in them this time of year. You flip, flip, and flip some more. We ain't got no wind. Sometimes you can catch them on a spinnerbait, but these fish get real tight to these cypress trees and these bushes and stuff like this. So we're gonna take a Strike King tube. We're gonna do a little flip. I got my boy Brad Roberts with me. We're fixing to go do a little flipping. He likes flipping a tube. I like flipping a tube. So y'all come along with us. We're fixing to go tube flipping. Come on. Come on, Brad. Let's go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's a good looking hat you got on, Brad.
It's a nice hat.
All right, hang on. We're fixing to make a long run. The water's got a deep bloom to it. See how thick it is? All right, folks, y'all heard me talk about Brad's Lake close by my house before. Here's Brad. I've been knowing Brad a long time. That's, you know, going out to his lake and fishing is a big part of the reason why I live where I live right now. Because I would always go out there to Brad, well, I call it Brad's Lake. If Cotton was around, his daddy, he'd want me to call it his lake. But I would go out there and just fell in love with the area. Bought me some land. Now I reside right out there.
That's been a while.
Caught many a fish out of that lake. Whoever it is.
It's Cotton Lake.
It's Cotton.
Yeah.
You gonna give him his due.
Yep.
Keeps good graces around Ponderosa when you do it that way. This is just plain old oxbow fishing at its finest right here, folks. Cypress tree. If they're not on, usually what I have found about this place is if they're not on these trees, they're in them bushes. So we had about hour and a half maybe to fish this evening. I really didn't want to go solo, so I called my buddy Brad. Y'all have heard me talk about Brad before when I say my buddy's friend or my buddy's lake down the street. Brad Roberts, Brad's Lake, Cotton's Lake. Anyway, I didn't want to go by myself, so I called Brad, and he obliged to come out here with me. We had hour and a half to fish. Brad loves throwing a tube. We fish a lot on the White River, fishing root balls and stuff, current breaks on the White River, and so I knew that was what I was going to be doing today. Brad has never been on Rose Outdoors. He's always in a tractor somewhere or in his truck riding around, bidding on jobs, working jobs, and things like that. So this was an opportunity for him to come out. He didn't have anything going on. It's Memorial Day weekend. His guys are off. I had a few hours. We're behind a couple Rose Outdoors show, so we headed over to a little old St. Francis River Oxbow Lake, got the old Sea Ark out, and yeah, me and Brad came out here and caught a few fish. We've known each other for a long time. I worked for an engineering company, Sorrell Engineering, in high school and in college, surveying, and Brad was always on the tractor. All the other guys were a lot older, so we had a little in common, hunting and fishing, about the same age. So we became friends, gosh, back in high school, known each other ever since. That's the story of me and Brad. We've known each other a long time. His wife, Edie, friends with my wife. So our families are friends with one another. Their family, pretty big family out in the area. I've become to know all those guys, just really good people. He introduced me to Beckspur Baptist Church, where Christy and I worship some. Preacher there's become good friends of mine. He's a good outdoorsman. So, yeah, it's kind of, he introduced me to a lot of people out here and showed me a piece of land and an area in Arkansas that I have fell in love with. Y'all see us flipping tubes. I really like flipping a tube. And get him, Brad. Get him. See up on the bank?
Yep.
Show him off to the camera. Be a movie star.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. You keep doing that many times, you don't get invited back to Rose Outdoor shows. But what I'm saying is, the reason I like a tube so much on tight quarters fishing is, gosh, almighty, is because, you know, you don't have you want the bait to drop right down. Like if we're fishing, me and Brad like to go to White River, fishing root wads and stuff. You want the bait to drop right down. You don't want a lot of drag. You don't want the bait pulling back to you. You want it to fall down in a hole real quick. And that's where a tube comes in real handy. It goes whoom, right down, and you get a reaction strike out of them. Get him, Brad. Oh, get him, Brad.
He's good.
Yeah. Come on. Come on. Get him, son.
Oh, that's a nice one.
That is a nice one.
Mm-hmm.
Old chunk.
Yep.
That there was on the bank too.
Yep.
I've been flipping all these deep cypress trees.
He swam all the way out here with it before I felt him.
So it's pretty simple today, man. We had this sea arc out here, and we had 3 rods. One of them has a crankbait on it. The other ones had Strike King weights, Mustad hooks, and well, he had some other hook, off-brand hook, and notice he lost the biggest fish of the day. Anyway, don't want to chase that rabbit too far. But yeah, it's just, oxbows are about fishing. The water is so thick most of the time. There's such a good bloom that these fish have to relate to some type of cover. They're not out. You're not going to live scope these fish out in the middle. The bait is not going to be migrating around out there in the middle. The bait's going to be up here, as you can see them flicking all over the bank. They're going to relate to the bushes and the trees that are next to the bank. And we began realizing today that they were actually on the bank, kind of in that undercut part and just out from it. So simple fishing. Oxbow fishing is about getting off the river into these nice, beautiful, cover-filled, target-rich environments and just flipping or throwing spinnerbait. You know, if it was windy today, we could probably throw a spinnerbait. But these times, you just get in these backwater areas and just flip. Post-spawn, the fish just got done spawning. They're ready to eat right now. Get him, Brad. Right up there on the bank.
Yep. Little.
They all count.
Boy, I'm having to stretch my one little tube here.
You get a whole bunch of them behind you.
Let me get another one. My back's starting to feel a little better.
Catching fish always makes you
Yeah.
curious what ails you. So these are the 2 baits we were fishing with today. Brad started out throwing a 2. He caught most of the fish today. He was throwing, one thing that I noticed Brad was throwing today was a black neon, black with red. It may be a deal where the crawfish are really molting or fish are really feeding on crawdads because they were close to the bank. But this bait has a lot of blue in it, which I like to throw around like on shad, when fish are on shad, because they got a lot of that blue sparkle in them. But he was throwing more of the black neon, black and red. And I noticed, and he was getting a lot more bites. Also, the rodent was a bait that once he ran out of black neon tubes, he was throwing a Strike King rodent. But both of these baits don't have they just have simple go in, they fall straight down, come back up. This is what you would flip in a bush, around a tree or something where you want the bait to fall right down. And man, a tube is just such a versatile bait. You can flip this thing. I'm gonna go up in Cayuga next month, and I'll be throwing some white ones, maybe on some beds. Green pumpkin, smallmouth tube at St. Clair the next tournament, and Saginaw Bay, I'll probably be throwing a KVD 3.5 tube and putting an inserted head up in it. But a tube is just a versatile bait, man. We've been catching them on, gosh, Brad still calls them a gets it sometimes. That's aging a tube right there. Gets it, the brand Gets It used to be the only one to make these. And then it ventured out. So many other companies started making them. Mid-South Tackle over in Jonesboro made them a while. The old Doug Garrett Mega Tube. Then Strike King came out with it. Denny came out with his version. And man, ever since then, I've been throwing the Strike King flipping tube, simply because you'll notice that this has got, from there to right there, about 1/8 of an inch, has got a hard nose, and that helps you just catch a few more fish off of one tube. So, man, the tube and the old rodent, just very, very versatile baits. Good flipping baits right there. Great baits to throw in an oxbow. What makes you feel real good is when you see what's happened just here recently. You folks probably remember Wynn got hit really hard with the tornado. And I witnessed something you don't see every day. I mean, it's kind of like when our country experienced 9/11. Christian brothers and sisters come together for their neighbor, their brother, and man, it was sure good to see. When I was at a tournament, when I came home, man, Samaritan's Purse and disaster reliefs from all over, the Red Cross, National Guard. I mean, everybody was back in wind. I rode up to see if there was anything I could help with, and they had more help than, you know, than they could possibly have. I hung out with some people around and prayed with them and talked to them and offered if I could do anything for them, and they had good spirits. I guess that if I could share any Christian message with anybody back home watching this, it would be, you know, don't wait for, there may not be a natural disaster or something like that going on in your community or your family or whatever, but there's people around all the time needing some help. And the more you can share the love of Christ with them, sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes it's helping, give them a $20 bill or a hug or a word of encouragement. That's what Christ wants us to do. Be Him for Him while we're here and He's in heaven. Just be there to support one another. So our area in wind got hit, as I talked about earlier today, and it just, with the natural tornado, and it just reminded me, you know, I always try to have a Christian message in these shows, and just brotherly love in this one. The Bible says, love Jesus with all our heart, love our neighbor, which these are the greatest commandments. You know, those are two that came from Jesus' mouth. So, yeah, we had a tough time in our community this year. You saw Christian people and friends and just brothers come together, and I think that's real important. You know, two friends out here fishing today, just enjoying good fellowship. I can rely on Brad anytime I need him. He knows he can rely on me, and that's what we got to have in this world, more of that. We got to have more people that loves our neighbor instead of wanting to murder our neighbor. You go on the news tonight and you're going to hear all kinds. There was a murder in here. There was a shooting in this mall, or at this college there was a shooting. Why do you want to kill? I mean, the answer to these problems is those two. Love Jesus, love your neighbor. You do that, that's the answer to all these problems. But when you have people with all these mental problems and getting off in left field and getting away from loving Jesus, away from loving your neighbor, wanting to do crazy stuff to one another, to your bodies, when you start getting off the wall like that, then that's where trouble comes in. I guarantee you ain't gonna be no murdering going on as long as two people out here fishing, throwing Strike King flipping tubes and catching bass one another, because it's too much fun, too much peace that it involves. And when you love Jesus, love your neighbor, you don't want to get involved in stuff like that. So it's so important to take those biblical principles and biblical words and apply them. Don't just think that's for somebody else. They're for all of us. Our time here on earth, it's short compared to eternity. And we need to listen to the words that are written in Jesus' word and apply them to our life. That's the answer. That's him.
My hook will get him.
That's him. The hook ain't got him yet.
Yeah, he's in there. Well, he's white color compared to the other ones. Look at that.
Hey!
Level up.
Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's two to end on right there.
Yep. Yeah.
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 Go ahead and say
That's
it.
what I figured.
Go ahead and say
yeah,
it.
yours is bigger.
That has been fun. Our wives got something to eat. Gosh, we ain't been out here about an hour and we've caught almost a dozen fish. Yeah, you caught most of them. But I think I got the biggest one. Enjoyed it. That was a good time.
Thank you.